Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Today I'm sharing the cards I made using Bella Blvd's Monsters and Friends paper collection. Now they did not release a 6x6 paper pad this time, so instead I purchased one sheet each of their 12x12 paper and also the coordinating ephemera pack. I rarely use 12x12 paper since generally the patterns are too large for card making. But I felt that Bella Blvd's designs were small enough that it would still work for making cards. Now I won't be finishing off all of that 12x12 paper that I purchased. So I had 12 sheets of 12x12 paper. My goal was to make at least 23 more Halloween cards since that's how many I need for donation this year. I will be doing 7 different card designs and 4 cards of each design. And I'm only going to show the process of assembling one. So for this very first card, I'm using a new sketch from Mojo Monday. This is number 547. And if you are interested in any of the sketches I use, I share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. And that link is in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. If you're interested in knowing all of the products I use for each card, I do put a list on my blog underneath every card picture. Sometimes I will use a product that has been retired, but I will still list it on my blog. I will provide links for most of the products used on my blog and also in the description box on this video. For some of the cards, I'm also using Bella Blvd's Bella Besties. This is a 6x6 paper pad, rainbow of colors, and it has a graph and also a polka dot design. I bought this last year to use with one of their collections, and I still have quite a bit of it left. What's really nice is the colors match perfectly with their paper collections. For this first card, I have this fun pattern paper for the background that has a bunch of different Halloween sentiments on it. And then I had to use this darling bat paper for that larger rectangle piece. I have some tone-on-tone green paper for that strip on the side, and I'm layering everything in some black cardstock. I'm going to add this adorable little bat ephemera piece to the circle. Just pop that up using some thin foam squares. And for the sentiment, I've already stamped this out. This is Happy Fright Night, and it's a sentiment that's included in Queen & Company's Frankie and Friends kit. And I will be using that sentiment stamp set quite a bit for this set of cards. Now before I adhere that sentiment down, since it's going off of a few layers, I want to make sure it's level. So I was going to put a foam square underneath, but it was a little too thick. So instead, I'm going to add a strip of cardstock. This is just scrap cardstock that's sitting on my desk. Put it on the right-hand side, and then I can adhere that to my card. For embellishments, I'm using the mini star peel-offs from Love from Lizi. Now the sheet comes solid as that one piece with all of those little stars cut out. Sometimes they can be tricky to remove. One of my crafty friends recommended pulling off that background sheet, so it leaves all of the little star stickers exposed and much easier to remove. So big thank you, Lisa, for the recommendation. It worked great. Now one thing I do like to do is add just a strip of the extra pattern paper to the inside of the card, and that's just for some extra detail. I'm also going to use some Glossy Accents and add it to the eyes of my ephemera pieces, and I'll be doing this on almost all of them, just for some more shine. So here are the 4 cards I made. I have 2 using this fun pumpkin paper. I used the Happy Halloween sentiment, which is also from Queen & Company. And I made 1 more card using a different bat ephemera piece. So I love this little bat hanging off of the moon. Super cute. I also added a little bit of glitter to some parts of the ephemera using a glitter brush by scrapbook.com. So now moving on to the next set of cards. I used a sketch from MFT. This is number 494. I'm using this fun pattern paper for the background that has a bunch of candy and these little monsters with a really wide jaw. They're each holding a lollipop. Then I have some purple star paper for the oval, and that's where I'm going to be putting my image. With the strip going in the background, I used some more of the Bella Besties in the teal color. And instead of adding a cardstock layer to this teal paper, I'm going to use some Love from Lizi peel off stickers. This is the teal mirror color. I'm just putting one strip on the edge of that teal paper. I did leave a gap in the center since it's going to be covered up. And then I wrapped the extra part of the peel off behind just to make sure it's not going to come off later. And I'm going to do a double matted layer for the background. So I have some of it going on this pearlescent teal cardstock and then also on some black cardstock. So I'll put my card front onto a card base. And generally when the background paper of my card is mostly white, I don't have any of that white card base showing. Most of my matted layers are an additional 1/8 of an inch to the measurements listed on the card sketch. Now before I adhere the oval to the card, I am going to put that scrap piece of cardstock on the upper and lower portion where it's going over that teal paper, just trying to keep everything level. Adhere that to the center of the card. And I'm going to use this little monster with the balloon that has Booyah on it. And then I also have the sentiment Happy Trick or Treat Day. This is another one from Queen & Company's kit. I already layered it with some black cardstock, and I'll just add those scrap pieces on the very ends where it's going off of those oval layers. And I did have to put 2 pieces just to keep it level. I'll adhere the sentiment first, and then I'll have the monster sitting right on top of the edge. But I am going to pop this little monster up using some thin foam squares. I love these thin foam squares from Scrapbook Adhesive. Perfect if you don't want to add a lot of extra dimension. So just remove the backing, put the little monster right on top of the sentiment. And then finishing touch, I'm going to add the glossy accents to his eyes. I didn't think this card really needed a lot of extra since it has that very busy background. So I do have my 4 cards, one more with the monster, and the other 2 I used some of the cut-aparts from the 12x12 paper. The 2 cut-aparts were both 3 by 4 inches in size. I left the Halloween as the full piece, but on the little ghost with the sentiment, I used an oval die to cut that out. And also for the Halloween, I did add some of the glitter brush to all of the letters and also added the little candy corn in the center of the O. So now on to the next card design. This is a sketch from Queen & Company. I am going to make a horizontal card instead of the vertical card that's indicated on the sketch. I used a border die from Queen & Company for this curved stitched border at the bottom of the star paper. And I used that same border die for that black layer. The very bottom of the card, I'm using this fun rainbow stripe paper. And I just have, it's about a 2-inch strip since most of it's going to be covered up. Layered everything with some black cardstock. I'll put my card front onto a card base. For this strip that goes across the top of the card, I have some pearlescent purple cardstock. And I used a die from Pretty Pink Posh. These are fun to add to cards, and there's 4 different widths in the set. Now for the image, I'm using my favorite ephemera piece, set of little monsters all in a row, and then I have a sentiment strip that's also one of the ephemera pieces. This is Cutest Monsters on the Block. So I'll adhere the sentiment strip down first, and I've already added some of the thin foam squares to the back of the image ephemera. Remove all the backing, and I'll have them stand directly on the top of that sentiment strip. Aren't those monsters adorable? And instead of this circle on the sketch, I'm going to add 2 of the ephemera flowers, just tying in some more of the pink and teal colors. I'll use the glossy accents and add it to each of their eyes. And since some of the monster eyes are really large, especially this one in the center with the one big eye, I'm only going to put the glossy accents on the pupil of the eye. And I did include the little pumpkin just for that touch of gloss. Pulled out my glitter brush from scrapbook.com and just adding it to different elements on this ephemera piece. So overall, it's a very simple card, but adding just those extra touches of glitter and the glossy accents really adds a lot. So So here are the 4 cards that I made using different ephemera pieces. And then once I laid out the other 3 cards, I realized I forgot to add a few of the Love from Lizi stars in the bottom left-hand corner. On the other cards, I left enough room where I could add 2 more stars to the right-hand side of that strip, but on this card I didn't, since I added the 2 flowers. I love all of these ephemera images, and there's a lot in the pack. There's 112 pieces total. Now moving on to card set number 4. I'm using a sketch from OWH. It's number 218. This is one of my favorite sketches. For the background piece, I'm using the purple graph paper from that Bella Blvd set. And for the other set of cards, I'll also be using the white graph paper. I love this floral paper, bright, vivid colors. So I decided I'm going to make a non-Halloween card, since there aren't any Halloween images on the floral paper. It just has Halloween colors, but I think this would still work for any occasion. I used some of the orange tone-on-tone paper with the stars for the strip toward the bottom of the card. And instead of adding the cardstock layer, I'm using some more Love from Lizi peel-offs in the black color. Just wrapped the ends behind, put this on some black cardstock. I'll put my card front onto a card base, and this is a very quick and simple card. The cardstock layers and the peel-offs really add some nice contrast, so it makes it pop. So before I adhere the flower paper, I will put that scrap piece of cardstock on the upper portion. But this is still a very flat card and won't need any additional postage to mail. For the sentiment, I'm using a set from Pink and Main, and the sentiment is grateful and thankful. I'll cut a little fishtail on the left-hand side and then layer this on some black cardstock. And then I'll trim the other side of the fishtail. And then using that extra piece of cardstock, I'm going to add that to the left-hand side of the sentiment. And then adhere that to my card. And for those 3 little dots on the left-hand side of the image box, you could use brads or bling, but I'm going to use the mini circle peel-offs from Love from Lizi. They'll add a little bit of shine without any extra dimension. And using the reverse tweezers really helps to adhere those tiny circles in place. I'll adhere that pattern paper strip to the inside of the card. I don't always show it, but I will add one to all of the cards. So there are my 4 cards, 2 in the purple and then 2 with that white, like a white and gray paper for the background. Now moving on to my next set of cards. This sketch is from Mojo Monday. It's number 542. And I selected this sketch for that large circle. One of the pattern papers has these adorable monsters all over it, and they are on the larger size. So I wanted to make sure to really feature them on a card. So I looked for a sketch that had that large image box, or circle in this case. For the background paper, I'm just using some solid gray cardstock. I did want to add a little bit of texture, so I used a stitched diagonal die by Reverse Confetti. And this is fun because it adds the detail without any extra dimension. I'm using some purple tone-on-tone star paper for that strip down the middle. And again, instead of adding the cardstock, I'm going to use some more Love from Lizi peel-offs. And this is a really pretty purple mirror color. You can see I didn't use full strips since most of those sides are going to be covered up with other pieces. So I have this polka dot paper for this strip across the bottom portion of the card. And then before I adhere my scallop circle, I am going to add some extra cardstock layers. So I'm going to cut out 2 of them. I'll adhere one first and see if that's enough. Then I'll lay it on the card, run my finger across it. If I can feel the little bump from those other layers, then I will add the second piece. And I did feel that, and I just don't want to have that noticeable dip between the 2 layers. I pulled out some purple and white twine. This is made by the Twinery, and I bought this probably over 10 years ago, so I'm not sure if it's even available any longer. I'm going to wrap it around the card twice, and I'm doing it underneath that circle image. Just to make sure the ends of the twine aren't going to come loose, I put some score tape on the back side. Put a lot of ATG tape on the back as well. And I'll put some liquid adhesive on the end that's closest to the twine, just to make sure the card front isn't going to pull away from the card base. I have had that happen in the past, so I find adding that little bit of liquid adhesive really helps. Now I decided not to add a sentiment to the front of the card. Instead, I stamped it on the inside, and I will be adding a sentiment on the inside of all of my cards anyway. But this sentiment is "Have a monstrously fun Halloween," and it's made by Queen & Company. I tie my bow on the right hand side, and then to finish off the card I added 2 enamel dots in the upper left hand corner. So this time the 4 cards I made are very similar. Aren't those monsters adorable? I don't make scary or gory Halloween cards, so I always look for some cutesy collections. So now on to the next set of cards. This is the sketch from MFT. It's number 508. And this is a new sketch, so it's the first time I tried it out, and I really like it. I used some fun ghost paper for the background, and I'm going to round the bottom 2 corners. So I did that on the pattern paper and also that black cardstock layer. For the strip going across the card, I used some more of that sentiment paper. Has a bunch of Halloween sentiments on it. For the larger circle in the background, I used some pearlescent cardstock in a pretty teal color. Then I'll adhere this sentiment strip on top. I did put those scrap pieces of cardstock on the outside edges. And then I'm going to use some more Love from Lizi peel-offs in the black color. I'm using the thinnest width. I'm trying to use up some of these small scraps that I have left over. So cards like this, it's perfect since you're going to cover up the center and you don't need a full strip. I'll add this piece onto my black cardstock, put my card front onto a card base, and then for the smaller circle, I have one cut out in a light gray, and I decided to layer it on some black cardstock so it had a little more contrast. And I'm going to adhere this down using some liquid adhesive. Since that teal cardstock has a pearlescent finish, I find the liquid adhesive adheres a little better than the ATG. And I would have done the same for the strip going across the card, but adding those peel-offs around the edge actually helps it adhere as well. So I have a little ephemera piece, this darling little monster with 3 eyes. I'm just going to pop him up using some thin foam squares. I guess it could be a she, I'm not really sure. And then I'm also going to add a small black banner die cut in the upper right hand corner. And this die is from Queen & Company's foundation die set. I think it's either 6 or 7 is the set number. They have 9 sets now, so I start forgetting. I did put a couple of enamel dots in the lower left hand corner. And now I'm just adding some glossy accents to the eyes and also the little antenna. So I did make 4 cards, 3 with the ghost paper and then 1 with the little monster image paper, since I didn't have enough of the ghost paper to do 4. Since the monster paper is fairly busy, I decided not to add that little banner, but I did put the 2 enamel dots in the lower right hand corner. So now on to my final set of cards. I used a sketch from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 456. For the background paper, I'm using the sky. It has clouds and the moon, and there's some little tiny stars on a few of the clouds. I'm going to use some solid purple cardstock for that strip along the lower portion of the card. And for a little extra interest, I cut the end of that purple cardstock at an angle. And that purple cardstock has a pearlescent finish as well. I have some star paper for the image box, and I use some black glitter paper to add a little hill. That way my little monsters will have something to stand on. I'm going to layer this with some black cardstock and then adhere it to my card on top of that purple strip. I have a couple different ephemera monsters. These are so cute. I added some of the thin foam squares to the back of each of them. I just made sure not to have it near their feet. Since that glitter cardstock already has some extra dimension, I didn't want to have their feet sticking up a little more than the rest of their body. So the monster on the right, I did have to move the one little foam square that was near its foot. So adhere both of those in place. And I've already stamped the sentiment. This is Spooks and Treats, Ghouls and Eeks. And this is another one from a Queen & Company. Just adhere that above the monster on the right. And then finishing touch, I'm going to add a few of the Love from Lizi mini circle peel-offs. I'll put 2 of them in the lower left-hand corner and then the rest in the upper right-hand corner. I'll add Glossy Accents to the eyes on both of the monsters. And then I'll bring out that glitter brush from scrapbook.com and add it to the eyelids on the purple monster and then all of the little purple polka dots on the black monster. So it's just a subtle little detail, but I think it adds a lot to the card. There is the finished card, and here are the other 3 I made, all very similar. I did use some of that rainbow striped paper for 2 of them, and then lots of other darling monster ephemera pieces. This was another new to me sketch. I love finding different sketches to try, and then I have my favorites that I will reuse again and again. Now, I mentioned earlier I did not finish off the paper. That was not my goal this time. I do have one full sheet of the 12 by 12 and a ton of scraps, and then quite a bit of the ephemera pack still left over. There is a lot in that pack. Now here's just a quick recap of the 28 cards I made using Bella Blvd's Monsters and Friends paper collection. This collection is absolutely adorable, and you can make a ton of really sweet Halloween cards with it. I have provided links in the description box for the full collection. They also have some of their Bella Pops, enamel dots. I think there's some stickers that go along with this collection. I just chose to stay with the paper and the ephemera. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.